Hi,
It's
Lena. Good morning. Good morning.
good morning. This is from Houston to New York. I am so happy to see you. Um, wow, is it early though? I'm not sure why I bumped up the time, but I am so glad to be here. Guess what I have?
Tell me.
Okay, it doesn't look like a tan, but look at this.
Ah, so exciting.
This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. I was so happy to get this. And here's the funny part. I don't know anything about co-ops and condos. And and here it is. And I tell you what, I know a lot more now reading this book, and it's just really great. I we talked about this a year ago.
Yes, I think
And
so.
you had first started talking about your plan, then you were talking with your coach, and you want to talk through like, how did this come about? Well, tell us what you do too, but how did this come about? It's so
Who
exciting.
who cares about what I do, right?
I know because you're an author.
So how did the whole thing come about? Well, my coach told me over a year, I would say a year and a half ago, she said, I really want to see you on stages out speaking about what you do. And I'm like, well, how do I do that, right? And that's not an easy thing. And I, I'm further along in my speaking bravery,
Yeah,
because to
yeah,
me, it's about being brave, right? It's
hmm,
speaking.
yeah,
But so, and then there were so many people. So I started telling people, and Joe Apfelbaum, he always
yeah,
says, if you want to do something, just tell the world. And if you tell the
right.
world, then they will hold you accountable. So I kept on telling people that I was going to do a TED talk because so my coach, to back up, so my coach, she says, I want to see you on stages. And naturally, I'm thinking to myself, where is that? Where is that? Oh, TED talk. I have to do a TED talk. So in
Yeah,
my mind, I translate you have to be on stages into what's the ultimate stage. And it's a TED
yeah.
talk. So I started talking about that. And then and people asked me, they said, oh, but shouldn't you, if you're going to do a TED talk, shouldn't you have a book first? And I'm like, okay, let's write the book. So that's how it
And
came about.
that is amazing. That is amazing. And now here it
Here
is.
it is. Here it
This is
is.
a on Amazon and on the website, and I am telling you, if it doesn't even matter if you don't know anything about condos or co-ops, you will learn a lot, because there were some things I thought, when you talk about like how to know your board well here, and you know just talking about how important it is that they have goals and objectives, that they are, follow recommendations to keep them optimal, that they have a code of ethics. These are the same things that apply to homeowners associations and any type of condo association. And at the end of the day, really, even management of apartments and things like that. So this book is so applicable to so many things. Now I know it's got some regulations there up in New York City, but it's pretty fascinating even to learn about that, and about facades and all the different types of rules and what you give. But something else that I thought was really, really cool that you did, let me see if I can get to a page,
I,
was you put the QR code for resources in every chapter. So this, it's not just a book, but like you provide this whole resource guide. That is fantastic. That is super cool. And you just make it so easy. So even again, people that wanted like an agenda or for meeting minutes, that, do just run like some type of condo association or homeowner association, can use these examples here in your book. So
Oh, thank you. I'm
yeah.
so glad that you like it. Yeah, no, that QR code goes to a template that co-op and condo and HOA boards
Mhm.
can use. Actually, any nonprofit board can use. Um, and it's a template. It's a copy and paste. It's a template that you can use for whatever organization that you run. And you would be surprised how many times, or maybe you're not, how many times we speak with board members or even owners, and they don't have a code of ethics and policies and procedures. And we're like, well, in your regular day job, you have to sign this. And in many cases, you sign it when you're hired. And in other
Right.
cases, you have to sign it every single year. If you're anything related to the financial service industry, they actually require that you sign it every year. And then you have this nonprofit, and you don't even have any. I Yeah, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. It's like, okay, so this is how it's done here in the real world, and then we do our nonprofit, and we don't use any of the same tools. And that's the bridge that we're trying to facilitate and provide enough resources for them all to be able to do that the business way, as opposed to sitting around on your couch and eating pizza while
Do that some other
conducting
time.
a board meeting.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh, yeah, yeah. Or having rules and regulations that are so old and have never been updated, and nothing's followed or implemented. So y- this is just so cool. And I had to keep going. And then we get to you talking about just a fantastic thing that I think people don't think about is getting to know your neighbors. And I'm going to talk about that. It's like this resonates with me, just having an up down living arrangement. And each set of neighbors that I've got the longevity now. Each set of neighbors that I've had have become, I mean, friends for life. Now I grant you, I feed them. So I do, there's a little bribery there, but it's so much better because then if for some reason a package comes or you're going to be out of town or all of the things, you just have this nice relationship with people. And if they need you, all the good things, right? And I grant you, not everybody's a great neighbor and things can happen. But putting forth the effort, I think, can make a huge difference on that relationship. And especially when you've got walls attached and sound and just all kinds of things. And I think like doing this and addressing it, there must have been some great stories for you to have had to touch on that pretty deeply, I would say, but some really great suggestions. Talk about that.
yeah. So, and I agree. And I spoke with Joe Apfelbaum about that chapter. I actually spoke with him to get some input. And well, one of the things is that so when it comes to getting to know your neighbors, there's so many people who say, oh, I do my work and I have my colleagues at work, and then I come home and I just want to be by myself. That doesn't mean that you can't be friendly and you can get along. You don't have to feed each other. I mean, it's nice if you do, but you don't have to shop for your neighbor. But to come home, so the doorman in New York, most buildings in New York, or many buildings in New York have a doorman. So the doorman knows your name, although I have a funny story about that too. but but then you don't know your neighbors, and you're walking through the same doors, you're taking the same elevator, and you might even open the doors right next to each other, and you don't know each other. You don't have to be best friends, you don't have to come
Sure.
for dinner,
Yeah.
but why not try to reach out and say good morning, here's my name, oh, I live down the hall, so that you kind of build a relationship. And that might turn out to be a great relationship, or it might not. And then if you think about it, So if you complain about your neighbor upstairs because they're too noisy, and you write a letter or you slip a note under their door, or you call a property management firm and you complain about them, then they get a complaint. How likely are they to stop making that noise that they do, whatever noise that might be, right?
Right.
Whereas if you say hello to them, they know your name and then you know their name. And then next time you speak, say, you know what? You know, when you throw that ball every morning at 5 a.m., it wakes me up. I'm so tired. Then you're friendly. So then when are they going to be more likely to stop throwing that ball? Is it because you spoke with them, because you're friendly, because they like you? Or
Right.
is it because you wrote a letter complaining about them? Yeah. So there are just so many benefits with knowing your neighbors. And then in my case, of course, we're trying to get owners to run for their boards and know as many board members as possible. So we want them, and in order for them to have a majority, we want them to know each other. So, and it just creates a better community to know your neighbors.
And isn't that how kind of Mark originally, I mean, y'all both were going to the board, but how Mark basically got on the board as y'all made efforts to get to know the neighbors because of the rise, I think it was a 5% every year
For
for
10
50,
years,
10 years.
10 years in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 5% a year for 10 years, it's a lot of, I mean, that's huge increases.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We said, listen, and at the time, I believe that there were 8 people on the board. There were 7 people on the board. So we calculated that we needed 4 people in order for them to be able to vote things through. So this was very strategic.
Yeah.
But it was okay. So if we run one person for one apartment, and then we're going to be 1 out of 6, and it's going to be a complete waste of our time. So we need to have majority so that we can get it done. And we actually had 5, but one of them pulled out last minute. So it became 3 plus Mark, so 4 people. And of course, we had to have Mark run because, and not me, because he's more diplomatic.
And you
I
still
care.
ended up advising, right? You still ended
I
up consulting
did.
on that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did. So
That's a
in most
great story.
buildings, and in our building, you can only be one person per apartment. We occasionally see other buildings where they have more than one, but it's stated. So we were just, so it was Mark. And then we got to know our neighbors, and they had the same pain points that we did. They said exactly the same thing. When we said it, they went like, yeah. We said, well, we need to run for the board. And they said, yeah. And we got a few really good ones involved. And I was literally lobbying. I was
Uh-huh.
standing the day of the annual meeting. I was standing in the lobby.
Uh-huh.
I can't get more lobbying than that. With a one of those boards and a
Uh-huh.
pen, and I get them to sign off on proxy. And I remember we had one woman who said to me, "I'm not going to sign for you. I don't know you." I'm like, "Okay." And now we're the friendliest people. I mean, she's just a lovely, lovely, very supportive. She supported Mark when he ran for office last year, only because she said, "Why would I have to vote for him? You're wonderful."
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And so by doing that from the start, now y'all can go to pretty much any co-op or condo in any kind of condition and come in and make really beneficial recommendations, do the consulting all the way up to and managing the actual work that needs to be done as well for code purposes or changes. But from getting to know your neighbor all the way to making huge improvements to the building, that's incredible. How did y'all determine that it's like, we're going to do this end to end?
yeah, so it all started with our building. And what happened was that we held this coup and we got 4 people elected to the board. And then the first thing that they did was ask me, and we thought that there were all kinds of shenanigans going on, because
Yeah.
why else would a maintenance increase by 5% a year for 10 years in a row?
Yeah.
So so they all said, listen, ask Tina. She has a financial background. She's been analyzing businesses for dozens of years, and she knows this stuff. So I became the head of the finance committee. And I didn't know where to start. They said, see if you can find some savings. And obviously, I'm not a magician. So I don't know if I didn't know at the time. Now I do. I didn't know at the time if $10,000 for one particular service was high, or if it was low, or if it was normal.
Wow.
So what I did was I went out and I got financial statements from other buildings, so I had something to compare to. So I pretended to be a buyer, gathered all of these financial statements, put together data, and once I had enough data, or I collected data, once I had enough data, I reported back to the board, and we were then able to make some phone calls, eliminate some services, get some competitive bids on existing services and installations. And in the first 3 years, we were able to save the building $340,000.
Whoa. Wow.
So when I was out networking, you know how everybody wants to meet another financial advisor?
Yes. Yeah. No. That's a no.
So instead of the eye rolling, I introduced myself as some variation of. I said, "Hi, I'm Tina, and I saved my co-op $340,000." And all of these people said, "Oh, can I introduce you to my co-op board?" So we went like, we might have a business here. So we started our business. We put up the shingles. We said, "What do we name it?" And it's Folsom Group because my last name is Larsson. Mark's last name is Folby. And Laurie sounded very stupid. So it became so I did have, I think that it was my mother and some other person who said, how come his last name is first? So it's Fold, which is his last name.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, Laurie sounded pretty stupid, so that's how we came up with
it. And that's how it's rolled ever since. That was 15, what'd you say, 10 years?
So 2014, so 8 years ago.
8 years ago. 8 years ago.
Yeah.
All the way from there. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the beginning, we only reduced their ongoing operating costs. And then it turned in that we had some buildings who said, but I'm replacing my elevators. Let's reduce the cost of that too. And we started counter bidding, or we're repairing our facades. So we started doing that. And then some buildings, they called us and they said, listen, we don't have any bids, so we have nothing to compare to. We want to replace the roof, but we don't have time to get any bids. So then we started working on a project management basis for those projects when there's nothing to compare to. And then a lot of them call us and they say, listen, we want to change our property manager. So then we started helping them doing that switch. So we started helping them. So now we have a service where we basically help them replace their property manager. So what happens is, in most cases, boards call their property manager and they say, listen, we hate our exterminating services. We need a new one. So the property manager says, here's another one, or here's two other ones, or three other ones, however they want to do it. And they try a new one, and it's not the end of the world. And I don't know about Houston, but in New York City, they're required to have any landlord in New York are required to provide exterminating services every 2 weeks, I believe, twice a month. So that's why why that's a very common service and a very common complaint too.
Yeah, sure.
You get one roach and You complain about your exterminating service, right? And but when it comes to property managers, if you hate if a board hates their property manager, they can't call the property manager. So who do they call? They call us, and we help them make that switch.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So y'all are the property manager exterminator.
Yes, that's
That's the new
exactly
title.
who we are. That's exactly who we
Well,
are.
I mean, that's fantastic because I can imagine that it would be really tough and people would feel stuck with the services they have and not having improvements and probably having increased rates and all the things that come along with zero satisfaction, which gives you a net negative, happy neighbor as well. It just trickles down to unhappy people all the way from entering the building.
Yeah, and I mean complaints about the property manager, very common.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Property manager, elevator service, and yeah, because I mean the elevator is out once,
Hmm.
and then everybody's complaining about the elevator, and especially if you have a very tall building. I mean, if you have
Yeah.
a 5-story building, maybe not, but if it's a very tall building, I mean, it's a lot of people who have to walk 12, 13, 14, 20 stairs.
No, I can't
Mm.
imagine, but that's got to be really tough, especially if you're not in excellent shape. And so the other part is you've built your networking side from, not just learning networking, but also to make these relationships like the elevator company, the exterminating companies, the facade repairs, all of these things, and being able to have a really good relationship with them to be able to get good pricing, good service, because you don't want a repair guy coming in and taking forever or tearing stuff up. So, um, I can only imagine, but how have you cultivated those relationships?
All networking. I network and I network and I network. And Mark networks a lot too. We network in completely different places.
Wow.
Well, we have some overlap, but
Uh-huh.
we do network at separate um, organizations or separate events and stuff. And over time, we've just built all of these great relationships. And one of the things is that because when we bring in an insurance guy,
Mhm.
which, so the insurance guy gets paid a commission. So of course he wants, I mean, he wants the insurance premium to be as high as possible because then his commission is as high as possible. But so all the vendors that we work with, you are right, Jerry. So, but you might have exterminating services that they complain about. So what happens is that they need to be aware that of our objective. We get paid as a percentage of savings. So if you're not going to do a good job and get us the best price, then just let us know up front,
Right. Right.
because that is we get paid, whether it doesn't matter what service it is, we get
Yeah.
paid, we split the savings with our clients
Wow.
for the first 2 years, and then they keep 100% of the savings. But when it comes
Wow.
to insurance, the insurance increases by a certain percent every single year,
Uh-huh.
and that's just how insurances work.
Mhm.
And we have buildings where we have reduced our insurance premium by the highest one was 62%.
Wow.
Yes,
That's huge.
62%. And that means that the new base, so let's say that it was 100,000, now it's only $48,000. That means that going forward, their insurance premium is still continuing to increase by 2.5% per year, which is the norm.
Uh-huh.
This year it was a little more, but normally it's 2.5% per year. Now it's 2.5%, but instead of on 100,000, it's on $48,000. So they continue to save, and insurance can be huge. I mean, can be really big money, and
Sure.
it's ongoing for forever.
Wow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, because we reduced the base. We have one building that 10 years later, or 8 years later, I guess, they still have lower insurance premium now than they did 8 years ago.
Wow. That's huge. That's fantastic. What a testament to your services, and also that you're a part of the savings, so you're not increasing fees that way. You're splitting the savings, and you don't keep this as ongoing. You're like, hey, we've done our savings and we're out, and we'll make our money elsewhere. Uh, what's bad about this situation? I can't figure a downside. I figure the downside is if they don't have y'all to help implement all of these changes, and you know what a great service. I think one day you need to be nationwide because that's just amazing for
I'm
sure.
going to. That's the plan. That's the plan.
I'm
I
right here.
would,
I'm right here in Houston. Pick me next. Pick me.
and the one thing though is that when I start doing more speaking, I think that it's naturally gonna grow nationwide.
I do
Or
too.
and North America. I mean,
Yeah.
Canada, they have a lot of condos.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, all of North America is what we're thinking. Yeah. Yeah, no. So let's see what if Jerry had any.
He
Oh
said
yeah,
bugs,
Jerry,
bugs are in
did
all
you?
buildings.
And
That's
that's
why
the
you have an exterminator, Jerry. Yeah, yeah,
and
that's
that's the
fantastic.
thing, and that's the thing that you have one mouse or you have one roach, everybody's complaining, or all the people who know about it, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah, that is fantastic. I mean, I think we could talk about it's interesting that we could talk about this, I think, for a very long time because it's just amazing. One other thing too is you even talk about security, which is really, really important, is knowing, all about the security of your building. Still fascinated about these local laws, but y'all, I'm in Houston, and I thought this book was fascinating because it's just interesting to learn what other cities require, and also how many things do apply across the board. Again, like you said, there's even like templates here for just a nonprofits meetings code of conduct. So the uses are well past co-op and condo. I love the title, Living the High Life, you know. And yeah, and I'm still doing bookmarking, but this is just
wow,
fantastic. I'm just so thrilled for you because you set out, I love you to death because you set out, you see a vision, you go forward with it, and just being a witness to it and being a part of it, and to cheer you on, it is beyond exciting and just a thrill. And the nice thing is there's no end to it. You'll just keep going, and we're going to see you on that TED Talk. And I know it's going to come soon.
you're gonna see me on the TED Talk. I don't even know. I haven't even looked into what you have to do to get on there.
It's
Someone
been
said, "Do you know what to do?" And I said, "No, I would assume that I just log on to their website and I put in my name and I say I want to talk." I don't know.
for you, it's going to be close to that simple. Somehow, I'm sure it will be, and with the great support and all of that. But it's fantastic. Now, you're going to be doing a formal launch and everything. But now, tell me again, will you put in the chat where we can get this book on, I think, your website and Amazon, right? Be sure to put
Yes.
that, and you'll put that in the LinkedIn chat, not our streaming
Okay.
chat, because it's a little confusing. But
Okay.
so I'm going to let you go because we've been chatting for about a half an hour here. It's been
Oh,
fantastic to see you again. And yeah, I'm going to get you again when we have another moment. We may just chat and laugh it up, and they'll just have to deal with this, right? So,
thank
yeah.
you so much for having me. And that's the back on about networking. That if it wasn't for LinkedIn, you and I would probably not have met.
Probably
So
not.
very grateful. Thank you so much for having me, Lena.
Thank you, Tina. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon.
You
Bye.
too.